badges of all the officers around her. That's pretty funny. Turning our garage into a huge Faraday cage. You sure that's going to work? So we'll talk about that. So anyway, so the topic tonight is a very serious topic. Life threatened by very, very serious topic. And I actually, I'm going to tell you that although I understood, in theory, what might happen with an EMP, I didn't actually understand how it worked. And what actually helped, I'm going to give you a little bit of background for those of you who haven't been aware that I've been doing this the last few weeks, is ham radio. So, I'm studying for my general license for ham radio. And I was going to take it yesterday, but Mother's Day, so I couldn't. I didn't have time. I didn't have free time to go. Get it done. So I'll take the test in a couple of weeks. But this is a ham radio, and because when you're doing a ham radio test, they actually the test is actually electronics, antennas. There's a lot of electronics in the discussion. Yes, I'm keeping an eye on you, Base Amy. You don't think I'm watching you. So when you start to understand how the electronics of these work, and when you do the test, by the way, well, this is a Nagoya. I think it's a two-band antenna Lenny PR. And the thing about the learning ham radio is you have to learn the electronics and some of the terminology as well as how it actually works. And one of the things that is very, very interesting is the knowledge of how radio works. Yeah, I'm going to take the test in a couple of weeks. I should have taken it already, but I ran out of time, so I'll take the general in a couple of weeks from now. So anyway, yes. So I have a technician license, and I also have a GMRS license. I don't need licensing on VHF Marine. I have several VHF Marine radios. I had a CB back in the old days. 10-4, good buddy. What's your 20? Okay, I forgot all that crap now. I haven't said 10-4 in a long time. So anyway, what is interesting that I learned is that the knowledge of radios, the knowledge of frequencies and so on, is directly related to EMPs. Because there's a little bit of a connection, and let me get rid of the echo for once. Okay. There's a little bit of a connection with what I'm doing with this ham radio, and everything else. Ham radio is very interesting to preppers. So ham radio is very interesting to preppers, and the reason ham radio is interesting to preppers is because if the ZHIT hits the fan, SHTF situation. So if there's an SHTF, what happens is none of your cell phones, and there'll be no internet, obviously. So you're gonna have to be finding ways to protect yourself inside your home, and it's gonna be a very scary situation in a SHTF situation. Like zombies. Zombies are coming, and we're all infected, and you're shooting the zombies outside and all that. Okay, or something simpler like an earthquake in California. I am in California, of course, and we may be a breakaway republic, not because of Trump, but we may be a breakaway republic just because of an earthquake. So we may actually shift out to the Pacific Ocean. So because of that, then there's always that risk of an emergency, and preppers are very concerned about what happens when the grid goes down. The grid can go down because of natural events like that, and can also go down from an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, and just to show you the consequences of an electromagnetic pulse, in theory, what they've explained, and I'm going to explain in detail exactly how this works, and this is very important. This is to make you tense on Mother's Day. So any mothers watching tonight, hello moms. The moms are going to be made nervous by what I'm going to talk about, so I'm going to make you nervous, so a little bit of excitement in your day. So it's going to be like, roller coaster day. You had a fun day, moms, and now I'm going to make you tense so that you can start tomorrow with a little bit of tension. So anyway, so when the SHTF happens, in theory this might work, but it may not. Will this survive an EMP? So the main reason to get an EMP is from a nuclear explosion, and you don't actually have to be blown away with a nuclear explosion, because if you're going to blow the U.S. away with a nuclear weapon, you're going to have to shoot a lot of them. Now, a small country like North Korea does not have the capability to, in theory, even hit anything with a ballistic missile. But what they can do, and this is the really scary part about this, what they can do is fire up the nuclear weapon, and if a very small load of a nuclear weapon up in the sky, like miles high, like several miles high, maybe hundreds of miles high, up in the air, and then blast it down. And the result will not be that you're going to get radiated. The result will be an electromagnetic pulse, or EMP. Now, if you watch any movies about EMP, what an EMP will theoretically do is shut down all electronic, 400 miles up, will shut down all electronic devices. Everything will shut down. Everything that runs on electricity will, in theory, I'm going to explain that. Everything that runs on electricity will not work. The power grid will be down. There will be no electricity, no nothing. Most cars, in theory, will not run. And so there will be mass hysteria, and there will be looting, and people will be shooting each other on the street and trying to get food. There will be no ATM machines. There will be no money, because we're all using Apple Pay. It's basically a pretty scary situation when that happens. So the question is, do we really understand what it means to have an EMP, and exactly how serious is it, and how does it work? So today, I'm going to talk about that. Tomorrow, what I'm going to talk about by special request, tomorrow I'm going to talk about how to use a ham radio in your family when you don't want to have your kids and your wife and everyone else in your family take a FCC amateur radio test, which is quite difficult. Okay? I'm going to tell you how to do it. So that'll be tomorrow. I'm going to teach you tomorrow how to do that, so that you can have these devices that can supplement your cell phone and don't have to worry about complex licensing tomorrow. I will explain that tomorrow. Okay, so this will be the continuation, but we'll see if these devices survive an EMP, because maybe this won't survive, in which case we won't need it. Okay, so will this scope be saved for YouTube? No, the YouTube will be saved for YouTube. The YouTube is always saved on YouTube. The scope is saved by scope. The scope is not YouTube. It's called GoTenna. It's not a GoTenna. Hello to seek the truth, Rob. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about what actually happens. Let's just presume for the moment that the cause of the EMP is a nuclear high altitude electromagnetic pulse. So if some terrorist shoots a bomb, where's Kelp? Where's Kelp? He loves terrorists. So he wants mass surveillance so we can stop this from happening. So here we are. We have a explosion hundreds of miles up in the sky, which then creates a electromagnetic force. In case you didn't know what a nuclear explosion is, fusion is the idea of a nuclear explosion. You basically cause a chain reaction called fusion, and then the chain reaction is uncontrollable and turns into an explosion, which releases electromagnetic waves and shock waves and energy all throughout. What happens though is we're gonna focus on the electromagnetic, not fission. Sorry, not fusion, fission. Okay, what will happen is when a nuclear device creates this RF energy, it creates an electromagnetic force. So, what is electromagnetic force? It's a speaker, on your radio. When you pass electricity to the coils, then it powers it up and causes enough power to vibrate the thing. Your electric motor runs by electromagnetic force. You put the power in the coils, and then that causes drought. That causes the coils to magnetize, and then it causes it to rotate, and now it runs your electric car and so on. Okay, thank you, Stella. Thank you. Anyway, what is interesting about electromagnetic force is that the electromagnetic force has a magnetic element to it. And I'm going to theorize this. I don't know if this is actually how it works, but if you bring a large magnet next to another magnet, there will be a repelling force, right? So let's say this is a magnet, and then you suddenly bring a magnet in there, there'll be a repelling force for a moment. The electromagnetic pulse from a nuclear weapon is enough to actually push the the magnetosphere, the magnetism of the Earth will be shifted momentarily. It will be shifted, and then it will shift back. Okay, so let me just explain this again. The force of an electromagnetic, of a nuclear explosion, the electromagnetic forces in that, there will be magnetism and electricity. Electromagnetic will cause a shift in the magnetic fields of the Earth, and then it will cause it to move, and then it will move back. Okay? Now, why is that of interest? Why do we care if the electromagnetic forces shift in that kind of fashion? First of all, the electromagnetic forces are in the form of waves, and the waves are pretty much just like radio waves. So, in theory, the studies of EMP says that there will be a wave from 0 hertz to all the way to visible light. So all that whole range, there will be like a big blast of radio frequencies all throughout all of those frequencies. It will blast out and affect everything, and it will be extremely strong. It will be very strong. Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of an example here. I wish I had an object to demonstrate this, but I'm going to just pick an object. Okay, let's say that this is metal. Okay, there's an actual experiment on YouTube that you can see that actually demonstrates this, and I'm going to show you. It's called induction. I'm going to tell you about induction. Okay, I'm going to tell you about induction. Okay, so let's say that this is a hollow tube. To say this is a hollow tube, and you wrap this in coil. Okay, you wrap a lot of coil on this. Conductive copper wire. Lot of it. So let's say this is full of copper wire, and then you have a big magnetism. Okay, if you put the magnet in the middle, while it's in motion, it's going to create electricity. If you stop it, it stops creating electricity. When it moves again, it makes electricity. So if you actually do this to the magnet in and out of this, chung 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 chung, like a piston. If you move the the magnet inside this thing in that kind of fashion, you create AC current, alternating current. So it's the same as electricity in your house. So that's how generators work. So you have a coil, and then if there's something that makes the magnet move in a piston-like way, that the action will create waves of AC current. It's gonna go like that. That's exactly how AC current is. Well, one of the things that is interesting about this AC current is the same that radio waves are constructed. Radio waves are that actually creates an electromagnetic current exactly the same as a radio wave. So radio waves go in this, and they're created exactly in this fashion, except it's created electronically. It's not made physically. It's made by oscillators that oscillate to make a sine wave like that, and it's done in a radio. It's done by oscillator, which is a digital way of creating the wave using numeric methods to create that kind of form. Okay, so an oscillator creates a waveform on a radio that is not the same as the analog signal of natural waves, because natural waves, are very exact. Okay, so anyway, anytime that there's a magnetic, electromagnetic flow in the atmosphere, and there is constantly here, there's always RF energy all around you, and it hits a conductive object such as an antenna. So there's this wave like that that goes up and down, and then it hits this antenna. The antenna then creates a current. So right now there's alternating current, radio frequency waves all around you and me. In fact, your phone, your internet is causing all that. So the cell tower nearby, radios in existence. If we listen to the radio here,
channel mode.
These people here talking
Scanning
here,
beacon.
the people talking out here.
Maybe because I'm coming for a slightly different culture. Maybe because.
See, so at any time that these radio waves are coming at you, then it's being captured by this little antenna here, and then the antenna is amplifying that and turning into something that will allow it to be heard. So it's going to turn that into a signal that we can hear. But in original form, radio waves are just like this. So here's the situation. Anytime there's a moving electromagnetic force and it hits anything metal or anything conductive, even water, it's actually going to create electric current in there. So this is generating an electric current right here. Okay, any antenna will create an electric current. Any antenna. So now, just so you understand though, here's the problem. Not every antenna will receive every frequency, because I told you that an electromagnetic pulse will have all frequencies. So this is not going to have the frequency of everything. It will only accept the frequencies for which this antenna is designed for, meaning it's resonant. The word is resonance. Certain objects are resonant to the frequency, certain objects are not. Like if you're receiving RF energy from your cell phone, is it going to give you cancer? Depends if you're resonant to the frequency or some part of your body is resonant to the frequency. Otherwise, if you are not resonant to the frequency, your body just ignores the RF. Okay, it'll just bounce off you and it will just ignore you because it doesn't get absorbed. This is resonant to the frequency that this is using, which is 70 centimeter band. So any radio waves of that wavelength, 70 centimeters. So any wavelength of this size, it's gonna hit this antenna. All the other ones are just gonna pass by it because this is not gonna absorb it. So the two issues that you need to consider here is that there are waves all around now, and when it does hit an object, the object has to be resonant, conductive and resonant, in order for it to do anything. Now, why is this an issue? Why is this an issue, and how does this relate Uh, how do you know if your body is resilient to the waves? Well, that's easily tested. They've done a lot of those. That's why it's very hard to do a test because every frequency may react differently. So the rats reacted to RF, and some of them got cancer from RF, but only in particular body parts, in a specific heart nerve cell in the heart and a nerve cell in the brain. Okay, so why? Probably because those parts of the body are resonant in the rat. We don't really know what's resonant with us. Uh, you feel dizzy after a CAT scan. Don't want cancer. So anyway, resonance is not global. Resonant is we are subject to radio frequencies constantly, just from all the radio in all different frequencies, and this has been going on for since the 1900s, late 1800s. So we have over 100 years of RF radiation affecting us, and what's different today is that the wavelength is changing. Wavelengths that we haven't used much in the past. Okay, so why is this important? Because in the case of a EMP, in the case of an EMP, there will be electronic RF floating through the atmosphere. Well, not just the atmosphere, but flowing through Earth with a strong signal. So the RF will be like the most giant radio you've ever seen. It's a nuclear explosion. Okay, so there will be a big RF signal. So just think about the fact that instead of a tiny magnet, the magnet is the size of the moon. Some big magnet is being thrown at us. As I already showed you, if this is a coil and you move any magnet near it, the coil will create electricity through something called induction. Okay, the coil will create electricity through induction. If there are two coils next to each other, it will pass the induction through something called coupling. So this is how transformers work. So this is how magnetism works. It's the physics of it. So anytime there's electromagnetic force against any kind of wire coil, and is resonant to that, then what happens is then it accumulates electricity. Well, guess what? Guess what, guys? In a typical city, in a typical world, we have lots and lots of wires. We have lots and lots of wires. In fact, our whole electric grid is based on poles with electric wires running through them all over the zucking country. So in essence, we have the biggest giant antenna ever made, and that is your electric lines. Your electric lines are big giant antennas. And there are many little antennas, every kind of wire. This is an antenna. This is an antenna. All these wires I have in here, all these are antennas in various ways. If there's a strong enough force, there will all be antennas. Okay, this is an antenna, but the biggest antenna of all is the power grid. So what happens now if a big giant magnet, electromagnetic force, big giant waves, and the waves will be very big when it comes to there'll be low frequency usually because they will travel from far away. Most of the waves that they think that the most of the waves that will come from an EMP that will reach many of us will be the low frequency waves, because the high frequency will dissipate a little sooner. But the ones that will keep their strength and travel far will be the low frequency waves, and they will now see all those telephone lines and electric wires and all the wires in their entire country, and all of those will now be subject to Faraday's inductance law. So now they will all be getting they will act as an inductor, and they will get power from electromagnetic waves. So a big wave that comes to into onto land will hit all the wires, and the wires will turn into a power supply, and they will now generate thousands and thousands, probably 20, 50,000 volts with 50,000 amps of power. Okay, it will be bigger than lightning. So the electronic, the low frequency waves will create, will turn the wires into basically big power supply. And so currently those wires are carrying probably 400 some volts, and through the wires as it travels all over the your area from your power supply, and then it's broken down into 240. It's probably 480, I would imagine, and then it's probably broken down to 240 and 120 when it gets to your house. So you're talking about, instead of 480 volts flowing through those wires, we're talking 50,000 volts. 50,000 volts. So the 50,000 volts will create so much power that it will obviously start to go, from the wires into the transformers, into everything. Well, here's the problem, folks. With 50,000 volts, and you can experiment with this with Tesla's coil. I don't know if you've seen movies with a Tesla coil and they create a spark. When the voltage is very high, then it can create a big spark, a very long one. Whereas if the voltage is low, it doesn't cross. Well, the thing is, when the voltage is that high, almost any small space will be crossed with a spark, and it will burn. Okay, and what is the issue with this? Well, here's the issue with your electronics. Here's the issue with electronics. I'm going to tell you why your electronics are going to shut down. The reason your electronics are going to shut down is from your transistors. So the real enemy of the EMP will be transformers, because the transformers with all the coils will burn up, because they're first of all, the wires are very close together, and the power will actually be coming from the wire backwards, so the voltage will reverse. Instead of being step down transformer, it'll be step up, and it will burn the grid. So the grid will shut down unless they put some sort of protection for electricity to go back into the grid, in which case all the transformers will be dead. Okay, all the transformers will be dead. So there will be no transformers. No transformer will survive an EMP. We'll talk about it later, Tony, but let's talk about this part first. So none of the transformers will survive. Well, transformers are not made in the U.S. So if those transformers get that kind of surge, then they're basically destroyed. And it may take years to replace every single transformer where this is affected. Years, if you can get them. So it will take a long time. And some of these transformers are huge, especially the ones at the grid itself, your power company. So all of those transformers will burn up unless they put some ways to detect the surge and shut down the transformer. But even if that doesn't happen, the transformer itself has so much wires that the transformer itself will be an inductor. Some of these transformers are made in Germany, I guess in the EU. So a lot of the transformers, I wonder if Siemens makes them. Who makes the transformers? And tell Trump that we need to pre-make those transformers and so on, or we need to protect those transformers in a Faraday cage, so with surge protectors, so that if anything happens, and the power dissipates. So. Should we spend all our money in? There you go. So anyway, So that one side of the grid will be the transformers. At the moment, they haven't done anything to the transformers. I am not aware of them actually doing anything to prevent transformers from being hit by an EMP. Okay, so is that in the new infrastructure bill? But at the moment, I don't think they've done anything yet. So we are very, very subject to that. If we get an EMP attack, then we are zucked. This is a weapon? Yes, it can be a weapon. And it doesn't have to be a big nuclear bomb. It just has to create enough radiation to cause an EMP. So an EMP can actually be focused on radiation rather than blasting people away. And then everyone will just kill each other. We'll have a SHTF situation. You know, bring out your weapons. It'll be worse than zombies. Yes, it can also become from a solar event called a coronal mass ejection. So that's also a possibility that the sun can create so much energy that a smaller version of it, of an EMP, can affect us regionally. So even a smaller EMP can in fact destroy the grid. You have your own ray gun. So it's very scary because yes, a grid can be destroyed both by a nuclear attack or by a coronal mass ejection or a solar EMP. So the sun can cause an EMP because exactly what that EMP does and what the sun does constantly. It's just that fortunately the sun is far away. What are those multicolored Lalavan? what are those multicolored things? So anyway. Mexico, what's the difference? Mexico can be hit by an EMP. In fact, if you hit the U.S. with an EMP, Mexico will get included in there. Yeah, so natural or man-made. So anything that can cause a massive disruption of the electromagnetic forces on the Earth can cause the effects of an EMP. So an EMP has 3 waves of strength. And the most damaging part is actually the third wave, which is the low frequency, because it will last for about like 30 seconds or a minute. So you have, or even a couple of minutes. So if you have 30 seconds of continuous electromagnetic forces like that, building up, 50,000 volts everywhere, anything that has a wire, then we're all zucked. We're all zucked. Yes, Mad Cow. E1, E2, E3. Wow, Mad Cow is very educated. Right. So the E3 is the one that has the longest effect. And now what's interesting about the E3 is that the long effect of the EMP is that they figure it's mostly low frequency. Papa Bear, Alaska. So, what is the significance of that statement that the third wave of an EMP is going to be low frequency? It means that the power grid with all those wires will be in a proper wavelength to accept those long wavelengths, because a low wavelength can be a kilometer long wavelength. If a kilometer long wavelength will be resonant only to something that is a kilometer long, like a telephone wire. Kilometer long wavelength is, it's going to be in the low, 100 hertz. I don't know, somewhere in there. 50 hertz. No, it's got to be higher than sound. Anyway, that's long. Those will be the longest waves, and they need long wires. Well, we have long wires. We have all this electric grid, and they will be. Hello, Creative T. So anyway, so this is what would, yes, all power would be wiped out. I heard 64 hertz. Yeah, that could be. That's pretty low, right? Those 64 hertz, you can do the math there and see how many kilometers that would be for 64 hertz. But those long waves will be the main one that will travel far and affect the big chunk of the country, which means this antenna here, which is made to receive in the 400 megahertz range. This is 400 megahertz antenna. This, in theory, will not be resonant. In theory, this will not be resonant. I quit. No more internet for you. Suck, Narisco. So, in theory, this is not resonant. So, in theory, this device will survive. Any device that's not connected to wires may survive. For example, your cell phone, if it's not plugged in, may survive. You may be able to play your games on your cell phone. It may survive. Okay? Now let me explain again what's going to happen to your device. Let's say that this is plugged in for charging. 50,000 volts come in. Yes, I've heard from Enlighten Up. Yes, I've talked to her. I've talked to her just recently. About a week ago. But won't be able to update. What about making phone calls? There won't be any phone calls. No. I'm just saying what will survive and why it will survive and why it won't and why you can't use your phone. So the electricity, 50,000 volts, will come in here, and the first thing that's going to get hit with this is anything that has a spacing that can be crossed by 50,000 volts will obviously be crossed. So I don't know if you know how transistors work. Transistors work by having a small gap between the conductors. That is called semiconductors. They're semiconductive. If you put the power to it, it becomes more conductive. That's how a transistor works. And the thing is that the gaps in the transistor are pretty small. And the new computers, the gaps are even smaller. Because of those small gaps, if you pound them with 50,000 volts, it will arc and will burn up. It will burn up the transistor. We'll discuss that after I explain the details. So it will burn up the transistor. Basically, anything that with a big separation may not burn up. So if it's a diode with a big space, an example of a diode with a big space is your LED. So a lot of our electronics are based on LED, which are light-emitting diodes. Well, a light-emitting diode has a lot of space between the conductors. So, it's actually the air that's sparking them. So there's a lot of space. Those might actually survive. No, Twin Mom, your old transistor radio, if it's plugged in, will be dead. If it's plugged in. Now, why does that have anything to do with it? Because if electric wires conduct 50,000 volts into your device, the 50,000 volts will be enough to cross any small gaps, and the small gaps will cause a spark and will burn all the transistors on any plugged-in device. Why am I talking about plugged-in devices? Because any plugged-in device is an antenna. Any long wire is an antenna. Anything with a long wire is an antenna. Therefore, many things that have a long wire, including your house, which has wiring all over your house, are antennas. Okay, so all of these antennas, they will have power. And if anything is plugged in, they have enough power to burn electronics. But if your cell phone is not plugged in, there's no wire. So here, I'm going to unplug that. Now, there's no wires in here of any big amount. Okay, because there's no wires in here, where will the antenna come from? Well, there's an antenna inside the phone. Okay, is that big enough to get the resonance? I don't know. Maybe not. I think it had to be a bigger antenna than the ones found in a phone. So they say, the experts think that cell phones may actually survive. However, what is the point of a cell phone if there's no cell towers? There won't be any wiring, there won't be any electricity. So yes, you can charge this with a solar panel. If you get one of those, solar chargers, yeah, you can power it up. But what can you do with it? I guess you can play games on it. So in the case of an SHTF, get a solar charger, and then you can play, some games on here if the games are stored on the computer. That may still work. Okay, but to communicate with this, no. Now, if this radio, that may still work, Tinker. But if this radio is not plugged in, this may also survive. Yeah, you can still play solitaire with it. Yes. If your computer is charged in and plugged into the charger, it will likely be wiped out if you don't do anything about it. Okay, so here's just to summarize what elements you're talking about. Anything with a long wire may be an antenna for the electromagnetic forces and create enough of a current to cause an issue. Any short wire may not have enough current on it to cause a problem. So you have a massive surge protector on your transfer switch. Yes, but inside your house, this is the problem, Michael. So yes, I saw there's a guy that's selling something called EMP Storm, which is on the transfer part of your circuit breaker. You can put this as a breaker on there. The problem is your house still has wires. Therefore, all those wiring inside your house will still generate a current. So every wire in the house will generate a current. Every wire, including these wires, every wire will generate a current. The question is the current strong enough to destroy what it's attached to? This is the question. Will your car survive? Will your car survive? Okay, anything without transistors may survive because the problem is transistors. Transistors are going to be the issue because the spacing in a transistor is so small that if it sparks, zap, transistors will spark. But what about the computers at the Intel factory? The Intel factory has all these motherboards. They're not plugged in yet. Will those survive? Yes, I think those motherboards will survive. This is a very interesting point. If you store a motherboard in a Faraday cage, the motherboard could survive because there's no antenna. You're going to go buy a horse and buggy. There's no antenna. With no antenna, there's not a way to generate the force from electromagnetic waves. There has to be an antenna. This is why my knowledge of ham radio is so useful here. It's amazing how it will work. Ham radio will still. By tomorrow, Twin Mom, I'm going to talk about how you can use ham radio. You can use a radio like this, like a ham radio. In fact, I will show you how you use a combination radio like this without needing to require every person in your house to have a license. To take a test, because that was kind of a difficult one. Okay, family, we're gonna all be training on amateur radio, and we're all gonna take the technician test, and it's like, Zuck, it's difficult. Will railroad tracks that carry current be affected burning out railroad? Yes, of course, Michael. Yes, obviously, yes. Not only that, the railroad tracks themselves will be full of electricity. Anything metal will be full of electricity. Difficult, but learn a lot on the way. But in case of emergency, licenses won't matter. Yes, but how do you learn how to use it if you don't know how? Okay, there was that brief electronic. So the signal dropped there for a moment, but it recovered. Signal dropped. Is YouTube still up? Signal dropped, but it recovered. Is YouTube still up? Can somebody on YouTube make a comment? Can somebody unmute? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So YouTube recovered. Okay. Well, I was talking and then the signal dropped. Yeah, dropping again. Dropping again. Here we go. Hold on. It's dropping. So it's not the server. There's an actual RF problem here. Okay. So it flashes red on me when it disconnects. It disconnected very briefly. It turned orange and expensive license for ain't bad either. Okay, it's I'll tell you about it, Great Gold, because I have the license. What electrical issue am I discussing? Electromagnetic pulse. Electromagnetic pulse, which is scary kind of attack. Starving your better now, never mind. So what happens to my metal hip replacement? They will. You may get. It depends. If it's resonant to the frequency, they'll give you an electric shock. Yeah. Okay. If Mach amp just hit you, EMP. Maybe they're testing an EMP on me here. They're testing an EMP on me. So anyway, back to what we're talking about. So if a electromagnetic force hits any wire, the wire will start to generate electricity from something called Faraday's law of induction. Okay, so it will, any kind of wire will generate electricity. It will act like an antenna. No, old cars do not have transistors. So old cars that don't have transistors, I think the cars from the 70s definitely don't have transistors. Cars from the 80s maybe have some. Cars from the 90s will have some. Yes, cars will, most of the cars in theory will stop. Now here's the thing about cars. The thing about cars is there's not necessarily a wire that's exposed that does not have a metal shield. So this is the question, and nobody really knows the answer to this. But if a car is made of metal and all the wires are inside the metal, I think what will happen is the outside of the car will get electrified, but it may not hit the internals of the wiring inside the car. It may not generate electricity. So the car may survive even if it has transistors. This is the question. There's no ground in the car. Okay. Yeah, points and condenser will still fire up. Pintos will run great, but they'll explode anyway. Van, the Pinto will run, but it'll explode. Okay, let's test that. Okay, yes. So anyway, here's the theory. The car has metal on top, but a lot of cars have a lot of metal on the bottom too. You know, the transmission and so if there's metal all around the car could survive an EMP. Okay, so a car could survive an EMP. So that is the question. Here's one, just a question for you. A question for you that, let's say that you, one of the ways they say to protect from an EMP is to get a large steel or a galvanized trash can, and then, maybe put a trash bag or something in there, and then put your electronics in there, and then close up the lid. And somebody was asking, does it have to be tight? Does it have to be? What if there are holes in the can? Will the EMP cross that? Okay, so this is some of the theories here. The theory is that in order for it to cross some Faraday protection cage, like a metal container, the frequency will have to be resonant. So, any small hole will not be resonant to an EMP because the wavelength will be big. We're talking about a wavelength of, a mile, quarter mile, that kind of wavelength. 60 meters, even if you go to 10 meters. I mean, those are big waves, and they're not going to cross some little openings. So that's why I'm actually not sure if you if we need, like, for example, your gun safe. I consider a gun safe to be a if you have one of those, a gun safe is made of metal. I consider a gun safe to be a Faraday cage, because really, even if there are like tiny little pinholes in there, that's not going to matter, because it's not going to be resonant to the wavelength. So, three-letter agency. So anyway, this is the theory. So my whiskey, my books, candles will be fine. You're gonna be fine, John. Sit in a tub of water. No, because if you sit in a tub of water, the water will get the frequencies from the EMP, and the water will be conductive and can give you an electric shock. Okay. Again, a device like this out in the open, will this actually survive an EMP? It may survive an EMP. And the reason they said it may survive an EMP, because it doesn't have any wiring that's resonant to the frequency of an EMP. Okay, and again, the issue is if that a wire is long enough to get the current, if it's resonant to the current of the EMP, because we don't really know what in testing, if you're next to the creator of the EMP, you'll get, everything will probably burn. But if you're fairly far away, let's say if somebody's gonna hit us with an EMP in the U.S., they're probably gonna put it in the center of the country, I would imagine. In which case, those closer to the EMP might get E1, E2, E3, all the different forces. A little stronger may get all the frequencies. In which case, these things will burn up. These things may burn up. Now, but those of us on the coasts may get more of the low frequencies, in which case these things might survive. That's a possibility. I mean, I'm only saying what my understanding is of radio frequency. This is based on my knowledge of radio frequency, that these things may survive because we're very far away and we only get low frequency signals. EMP blast directed at Google, Apple, and Facebook. Hi ho. So basically, an EMP is the lightning strike of all lightning strikes. No, because a lightning strike does not generate. It's a lightning strike is a localized electric effect, versus a EMP is a big giant magnet. So yeah, a lightning strike is not anywhere near the effect of an EMP. A solar flare is closer to what an EMP might be like. Solar flare impacts, radio communications. This will be a little bit more. It doesn't relate to lightning. How high is optimal EMP? Somebody, it's hundreds of miles up. So I think it's somebody mentioned 400 miles. So I don't know if that's the actual number. Now, so Michael, you were asking if a mesh is good enough versus an actual Faraday cage, and the reason for that question is, again, has to do with the question of resonance, because if you have a mesh, could radio frequencies cross the mesh? I guess you can easily experiment with that by frequency, but there's possibility that even a mesh might work, meaning you do not need actual full metal. A mesh might work enough to break up the frequency so that it doesn't conduct electricity so much, but the mesh itself will be a conductor. The mesh itself will have thousands of volts, 50,000s of volts. Is the ISS already hardened? You don't have to harden the ISS, because it's being pounded by electromagnetic radiation constantly. As long as you don't touch the metal portion of it, you're insulated, then electricity is not going to get to you. And I presume they have, probably lead and other things to prevent the gamma rays and so on from the sun to reach there. Did you know astronauts know ham radio? Yes, of course. Great Gold, that's part of the test. Great Gold, that is part of the test. Yes, I know that. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you how you can use this ham radio in your household in a practical way that doesn't require all of you to get a license. I'll tell you a practical way to do this. In fact, I got my second one for this, and my second handheld, and I'll demonstrate it tomorrow. And this is a solution for people who want to come up with a way to have communication in an emergency without requiring that you all take a ham license exam, which is kind of difficult. A ham license is not easy. That's why not that many people have a ham license. It's it's like going to school. You do have to learn stuff. Astronauts also now Latin and Yeti. What? So anyway, continuing on with my discussion. So there is a question about what kind of electronics would survive an EMP. My hips will burn me alive. What kind of electronics will survive an EMP? Well, guess what? Scientists believe that vacuum tubes will survive an EMP. The reason is the gap in the vacuum tube is big enough that it won't cause it to short. Yeah, it'll cause a thing in the tube, but it won't short it. Unlike a transistor will short. So, because the spacing in a microprocessor transistor is so small that if you pass a large voltage to it, then it will short. The authorities are not working on it because they're not planning on it. I had a ham license years ago, but now my religion prevents me from being around pork. There you go, Van. I didn't know you need a ham license. Yeah, old TVs, and what are you going to watch with the old TV? Yes, old TVs will likely survive an EMP, especially if they're not plugged in. So if you have some old TVs, make sure it's not plugged in, and maybe they'll survive. Again, it's not certain that a car will not run. There's a possibility that some electronics in the car won't run, but then some parts of the car will run. So this is not 100%. Some of the theories are not actually completely accurate, so we may not have the complete answer. There may be things that may actually survive. So DVD player, will that survive? I don't know. EMT goes off, the planes will be falling out of the sky. EMP, not EMT. Would lead paint help? Yes. I thought you said would kelp help. I thought you were referring to kelp. This is a very real possibility. We need to prepare the best we can. Yeah, the problem is that our grid itself is at risk here, because what are we doing to prevent the grid from shutting down an EMP? If the grid most of the electricity that will burn up everything in our electronics will come from the grid. Okay? What about solar homes with batteries? Solar panels are made of transistors, and solar panels may burn up. Solar panels may not survive unless you have one of those portable solar panels. You stow it in metal, that will survive. Ham on steroid. So they solar panels up in your roof may not survive. So and if there's this is the way solar panels, because solar panels are typically connected to the grid, and there may be a diode that keeps the signal from the power from reversing back. Those diodes will likely burn up they will likely burn up in a EMP. So you may be able to refurbish a solar panel to rework again, but it may not. If you don't have spare parts, it may not work. How long will it take to properly harden or grid and products? Oh my gosh. Might take a decade. So here we are thinking about sucking 5G, and nobody's actually thinking, what about a solar EMP? I mean, it's more important that we get 5G. 5G is, we can't live without 5G, so we better have 5G. And in the meantime, no one's thought about hardening your environment so you're a little bit safer. So let's talk about what might you do to keep your house running electronically or electrically in case of an EMP. I can tell you right now that yes, although your cell phone may survive if it's not plugged in, the only thing this devices will be good for is for what? A calculator, playing games. There won't be enough power. I guess you can take pictures with it still. I don't know what you're going to do with this phone other than that. So it's not really utilitarian. It's going to be a toy. Without cell service, this will be a toy. There'll be no internet. So this will be a toy. So you can play you always have games on it. In case of an EMP, you can entertain yourself while the zombies attack you. Okay? So this is not going to be practical. You need to think about devices that will actually survive and be able to work. And the only thing that you can use are these kinds of things. Okay? This is a ham radio that can reach, 20, 30 miles without a repeater. This will reach 20, 30 miles without a repeater line of sight. With a repeater, I am able to reach hundreds of miles with this. Okay? So with a repeater, I can reach pretty much all of Southern California with this. Okay, so this will actually be of purpose. This will serve a purpose. Oh, of course you can, Simon, very easily. Portable solar charger, $50. You can charge your devices with a $50 solar charger device. While holding your guns. Well, you might want to practice your zombie games on there. Yes. In an EMP, you will be holding this. Or maybe a longer version. Maybe a shotgun. Harden your heart. So, yeah, so this is why it's so practical with these. Because if I were to think about just, how I would just be ready and safeguard my family with just something... solar double choose in the UK. Well, I'm in California, Simon. It'll work here. WPA3 has been hacked a long time ago. That's why they're trying to fix that. How about ammo? Does metal? Ammo is not going to do anything. It's not. What is the ammo going to do? Hopefully you kept your ammo in a gun safe where it's not going to be subject to frequencies. I wonder if Snowden thought about using ham radio. Not him. He needs to be more concerned about communications. But just to give you an idea, okay? A ham radio, it's not just ham radio. A particular kind of radio with a solar charger will keep you in communication with your family, with the universe for the short range. Those long range ham radios, they're called HT radios. HF radios. Those will not survive an EMP. This is very funny. Okay, you may not realize this. Let me repeat again. The long range radios, they're called, they transmit using skip propagation off the atmosphere. They use the low frequencies, 10 meter, 20 meter, 30 meter, 60 meter, 80 meter, 160 meters. Those are in the range of a those are called HF radios, which requires a general license. And the problem with those is they have long antennas, so those long antennas will burn them up during an EMP. So those devices, unless they have some sort of EMP protection or you leave it unplugged, will burn up in case of an EMP. So a lot of ham radios in that category will fail, whereas these little guys will not. Especially if you throw this into your gun safe, this will actually survive. And if you throw a inexpensive solar charger in your gun safe and a couple of these, wow, you're good, you're set to go. So how do you protect other things in your house? Believe it or not, if they're not plugged in, all you need to do is worry about a surge protector or a uninterruptible power supply. So those will actually work. So you may need some higher grade ones that can withstand voltage increase of 50,000 volts. So I'm looking at those and seeing what might be high capacity enough to put in your house and put them in, opportune things that are important to protect in case of an emergency, like things like this. Is it important to protect your TV from an EMP? I guess I don't think so. Do you really need to protect your computer from your TV from an EMP? What is gonna? There won't be any TV anyway. But your computer could be useful because there's a lot of things you can do, on a computer. You can even program on a computer, and you can do that even without an internet. So, can you protect the computer from an EMP? Yeah, with a proper surge protector, you might be able to. This is unknown. Again, it depends on your distance from where the EMP strikes. But no Mr. Ed reruns. So, actually, ham radio can broadcast TV. I didn't know if you knew that. Ham radio can broadcast TV. Maybe black and white. So, is that what Vladimir was saying, that he can attack the world without notice? Vladimir said that? Well, we can attack back. The thing about a EMP, I mean, if you EMP, first of all, if somebody fired a missile from Russia to the U.S., we're just going to assume it's a full nuclear attack and encounter with, and just destroy the world. So, I don't think that's the fear. The fear is that some rogue terrorist, where's Kelp? Kelp and his terrorists. So some rogue terrorist can say, well, we'll destroy the U.S. economy with an EMP. And they could. Snowden should have used carrier pigeons. They can, come on. Carrier pigeons were intercepted even back in the, the old days, the dark ages. The best way to travel back in time is an EMP. So, and isn't this an interesting topic, though, guys? I mean, does anybody actually think about this? So we need to be concerned about how to harden our house. If you're in contact with any long wire, you could be electrocuted with an EMP. So if you're near any kind of wiring, if there's a risk of that, make sure you're not near any kind of long wires. The terrorists are within our own, you mean the deep state, right? So forget the year of the car you need to have. It's a point system car. What? You think it's a point system car? What the fuck does that mean? So this is very, hopefully this is an interesting enough topic that you're understanding that, I'm explaining it in a sense that it kind of connects to everything else, and it's not directly related to privacy, but it's certainly related to survival. It seems a person leader is being a weapon now. Seems a person leader is being a weapon now, causing many issues. I don't know what that means, John. So anyway, as I think about our situations in the world and what we can do to protect ourselves, it's strangely interesting how these devices, which are actually very simple electronic devices, I think 400 miles or so, it's Kizzer, up in the, and then blast downwards. So I think the range is hundreds of miles. So I'm thinking 400. Will you share your research, write an ebook? This came from an actual book. If you want to read the actual book, it's a short book written by it's called Prepper Doc. And Prepper Doc happens to have a degree in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and is a doctor, medical doctor. He has electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and is a doctor. And his work actually relates a lot to radio frequency. Okay, so the guy that where I read this information from is a true expert. That's why his discussions were very clear, and it's very understandable because he's a ham radio guy. It was very clear to people who understood ham radio. So, amateur radio licensees like me can understand what he's talking about. I'm translating what he's saying into ways that you can understand. He actually gave solutions. He actually said what kind of they have certain devices that can actually protect electronics if you wire them into your circuits. He even had one for a house, for your equipment, and he has a circuit diagram if you want to do it. And what kind of devices, what kind of resistors, and what kind of things, tube discharge things that you can put that will cut the signal to protect radios and things. So he actually got to that detail with solutions to it. Whether it will work or not is obviously, it depends, because it depends on what type of waves reach you. Dirty EMP. Don't forget to buy a Geiger counter and a supply of iodine tablets. Big Kahuna. That it relates to gamma rays. Gamma rays is a different threat. So gamma rays is a different threat. Whether the gamma rays can penetrate 400 miles of atmosphere to reach you with strength is not necessarily a concern. I don't know if you know this, and just so you understand how the gamma rays and such are coming from the sun right now, how they're actually stopped. So we are currently in the atmosphere, in the hundreds of miles of atmosphere. We are being attacked right now by gamma rays and X-rays and so on. So the gamma rays are coming to us from the sun. If you were out in the outside of the atmosphere unprotected, you will be hit by those gamma rays and you will be radiated, and you will in fact get radiation like you were in a atomic bomb kind of case, like Hiroshima, Nagasaki. So it will be like that if you're out there. But what happens is the atmosphere, this is what's called the ionosphere, actually absorbs the gamma rays and causes electrons to split off from the gas atoms in there, and it causes these free electrons to float up in the ionosphere, which is actually used by radio to reflect back radio signals. So no, it's not the ozone layer. It's beyond that. Okay, so past the ozone layer, there's many layers on the atmosphere. It's called the D layer, the E layer, F1, F2, and so on. Okay, Again, stuff that you learn when you take your radio exam. That part of the atmosphere absorbs a lot of the gamma rays. So if you actually shot down a gamma ray from 400 miles up, likely the atmosphere will just absorb the energy of the gamma rays. The gamma rays themselves may not affect us, at least not much. So what will affect us more are the low frequency waves, which will cause the massive high voltages from induction, which will cause damage to electronic equipment and cause disarray without causing direct death. Okay? Well, people will get electrocuted, but other than that, the majority of people will survive EMP itself, but the electronic equipment will not. And then the world will turn because, you won't have ATM machines, you won't have any internet, you won't have Facebook. Chernobyl will remain radioactive for 300,000 years. Well, but that's not an EMP. That's a radioactive. Get rid of your beds with coils. Don't touch it. Feeling too hurt? Remember, the coils are going to be powered only for 30 seconds. It will only be powered for 30 seconds, so to a minute. And so if you don't touch them, they're not going to do anything. Magnetic field protects from gamma rays. Space resort, thank you. That's I actually didn't know that, but it's beyond that. The actual atmosphere functions to protect us from gamma rays out there in the ionosphere. So I know that is already happening. And I didn't know that magnetic forces of the Earth contribute to that. I did not know that. Maybe all these destructive people can go live on the moon or Mars, fly up on a Bezos rocket. I actually feel vibrations when they harp, and I'm in my bed. They do? You do? I'm not familiar with harp. Neutron B blows up, destroying a very little area, helping radiation kill up all the living and saving the community infrastructure. That's not what we're talking about. It's not an EMP. Okay, that is not connected to an EMP. KK. KK, thank you, KK, for watching. So this is a very, very interesting. Hello, Brick Heart USA. Radon is a beta ray. Radon is a beta ray. No, radon is an element, isn't it? Not something that I can't speak to. No, but it's not a ray. The electromagnetic rays are gamma rays, X-rays, and then visible light, infrared, and then all of the radio frequencies. Okay, so that has nothing to do with radiation. That may emit gamma rays. When you use HARP, my tinfoil hat becomes discolored and tarnished. Uranium-235 byproduct. Okay. So that will release gamma rays. Right. Not radon rays, but yeah. A radioactive product will release gamma rays. Don't know what we will have till it's gone. Seems point. Yeah. So the rays are called gamma rays. Those are the ones that are damaging. That's radioactivity is about gamma rays, and there are different kinds of gamma rays. There's beta and whatever. So there are different kinds of gamma rays that have different levels of destruction. There's also UVA, UVB, and all that. So there's different levels of destruction by different frequencies of gamma rays. I'm not an expert on that. That's not what we're talking about. So we're talking about what the effect is of the lower level radio frequencies if you disrupt the magnetic signal of the Earth. So what will actually happen is the EMP will push the magnetic forces of the Earth sideways, and then the magnetic force will return back. Well, the movement of magnetic forces will cause induction, and that will cause those thousands and thousands of volts of electricity on anything conductive that acts as an antenna. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. So again, is there ways to protect some objects that are wired? If it's not in a cage or a gun safe or a a metal. For example, let's say your garage. If you cover your garage in metal, if you put metal on all the sides of the walls, it will actually act as a Faraday shield, a Faraday cage. Hello, Starlight. Now on you left YouTube. So a Faraday cage, a garage. You can turn your garage into a Faraday cage if you put metal all around it. That is in fact true. Will chicken wire be enough? That's the theory. We don't know. It may. Why aren't you people what? So it may work. Putting chicken wire on the interior. There's some question, will stucco work? Because homes are built with stucco with a lot of wire on the outside. Will that act as a cage? That's the question. No, you can't. It's 30 seconds worth. Oh, Magama Mama. Magama Mama? That is not Wagama Mama Mama. It's a different Mama. Oh, that's Maga Mama. So, for example, if your house has chicken wire on stucco, my house is stucco, so it has chicken wire, right? But I have open windows and the roof doesn't have chicken wire. So, no, I don't think a house is going to be protected. We are watching over there. So, I don't think it'll be protected. So, most houses will not. But if you specifically make an enclosure, like if you have an enclosure that you can put metal all around it and even ground it, that might work. That might work. We don't really know. Again, it's a lot of questions here. But my friend is thinking about putting their walls out to add a layer of aluminum foil. Well, Mad Cow, if they do that, then they can't use Wi-Fi from outside and they can't reach their cell phone. I'm prepping for an attack of this magnitude. So you have your ham radio. You have your ham radio, Magamama. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about how to use a ham radio for a normal household, and how to because it's going to be a problem getting a license for ham radio for the entire family. I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be a problem. But I came up with a solution which I'm going to implement in my own household. That's all completely legal, and what kind of devices to use. I'm gonna discuss it tomorrow. How you actually can do that, what kind of devices you can use, how you can make it work so it's legal to use today, that you don't have to worry about an EMP. Of course, you have a ham radio. Yes. So, will I be protected from an EMP if I cover my entire house with copper window screens? Yes, Big Kona, but better not open your window. You better not open your window. Ham radio is the first. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about ham radio tomorrow. So come back tomorrow, Magama Mama. Not that Magama Mama, it's Maga Mama. I'm like confusing you with Wagama Mama Mama. Periscope does not seem to be notifying me on broadcast. That's okay. You know when I broadcast? I broadcast from Friday to Monday. My schedule is Friday to Monday, and then YouTube videos the rest of the time. So follow me on YouTube, please, so that you get the YouTube videos. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Rob Braxman Tech, so you can get the shortened version. Everything that I'm talking about on these long videos, I make a short version that you can share with your friends and put it on YouTube. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel, especially you, Mega Mama. Aren't there a few hemp channels that don't require license? No, Brick, but I will explain what to do. The answer is no. If you if you are a ham, you can have access to some ham channels depending on your level. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about will Google survive an EMP? Probably not. Okay, so yeah, that'll destroy the economies. How will we live with an EMP? But I'm going to tell you that it doesn't have to be an EMP. How these devices can protect you, and these devices have additional benefits because you can use them today to not put yourself out on the sucking internet. Okay, this is what's important about these kinds of things is I found a way to communicate without having myself be profiled on the sucking internet by Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook. Why does copper protect against EMP? Copper does not protect against EMP. In fact, that's what's going to cause most of your high voltages is the copper. So, no, that's not a correct statement. However, if you are covered by copper, what's inside the copper will not be affected because the copper will have all the energy. So if you cover your house with all copper, now it may be that your house could burn. There may be enough electricity to cause a fire. Magamama, there's already a video on that, plus multiple scopes from last weekend. So watch the shortened video on Rob Braxman Tech on 5G. I have a video on that. I answered that already last week and the week before, and there's a short video on YouTube. Magamama, you got to watch the YouTube because it's all in there. It summarizes the effects. Okay, so you have protection from 5G. What about 3G? Are you protected from Wi-Fi? So the problem is 5G is not the only threat because it's already been proven that 3G can impact you, and Wi-Fi is higher frequency than that even. So yeah. So if you want to watch the video, it's on there. I'm going to watch the video. This is my first time watch. Thank you, Magamama. Yeah. So that is in the video over there. And subscribe to my channel, please, so you get all that information. So, because I lost so many subscribers tonight. I lost so many subscribers on YouTube because of my bad start. For sure, 50,000 volt will light up your house as it grounds out. Had it happen in houses here, yeah. That's a problem if you put some metal shielding in your house, and it will obviously conduct 50,000 volts of electricity, and if it has to go somewhere, and sometimes it goes off its heat, and then and it could start a fire. So it depends on how the energy flows. So that's something that you got to consider. How do you ground a big metal structure like a metal warehouse? In fact, there's a house here that's all metal, and it's ugly because it looks like a warehouse. It's huge and ugly, and it's all made of metal. And now that I think about it, maybe it's a prepper. Maybe the owner of that house said, "Yep, I'm going to make my house protected from EMP, so I made a metal house." That may be what was happening. So anyway, I hope this is helpful information. I'm not, as usual, I don't get a lot of traffic now from termites don't like metal. I don't get a lot of traffic now from Periscope. So it is what it is. So tomorrow I will explain now how I'm gonna tell you why I need to explain it, and I'm gonna demonstrate it tomorrow. Uh, to use a ham radio requires a ham license. To have a ham license requires a lot of study. So some of you will say, well, I'll buy the ham radio, stow it, not use it, and I won't transmit on it because it's against the law. But when the law breaks down, it doesn't matter because I'm just using it to listen. Okay, hey, hello, Claire Peters. But the problem is, if you haven't actually used these things, they're actually kind of complicated. They're complicated to use. So if you don't know how to use them, you have to program them. You have to, this requires some programming. So I'm going to teach you all that. I'm going to teach you how to program this, and from this you will learn maybe how to use this in a practical way, without requiring that your wife, your kids, and everybody be a amateur FCC licensed ham radio operator. Only ham radio operators. I have a license for this. I have an FCC license to operate a ham radio. I have to take a test for that, and the test is not easy. And I'm taking the next test for general, which is the next level. And I was going to take that test. Why do you have to have what? Build a ham device, make it build a ham device. So anyway, I'm going to tell you what the solution is and how to make this practical for you. For example, if Starlight said, I'm going to buy my stuff and pass the test for ham radio, okay, great if you do that. But will anyone else in your family do it? Chances are the answer is no. How would they know if you didn't have a ham license? If you used it today, they will know. Okay, because anytime you broadcast, you have to use a call sign. You can't broadcast without a call sign. So you broadcast a call sign, and you identify yourself, and anyone can look you up and see your name and address and know who you are on the radio. You can't hide that. So if you go on the radio and don't have a call sign, then they'll say, "Oh, illegal operator." Then using direction finding, they can find you eventually, and then you're going to get a huge fine from the FCC. Could be $100,000. I think it's like a $10,000 fine plus $500 a day, and on and on and on. It's a big fine. Okay, so you don't want to. Is this not for listening into information? You can use it for listening legally, yes. You can use it for listening only, but you cannot press that transmit button without a license. But I will tell you how to get around all of that tomorrow. I will tell you. Well, you're in Australia. They may even have worse rules. I don't know. Well, I don't know what the rule is for ham radio in Australia. These are USA rules. In many countries, they're not allowed to have ham radio. You can listen without a license, correct? Which is not very useful, right? Yeah, you can listen without a license. You don't need this to listen without a license. There's a cheaper device. It's very similar to you're in the USA. Yes, I'm in the USA. You can listen to ham radio using RTL SDR. It's a little USB plug into your computer, and you can listen to ham radio all day. Okay, you don't need anything special. You don't need a license for that. It's receive only. That's completely legal. So that is what you can do if you just want to listen. Can you hear millions of things going on all the time? There are not millions of things going on. Not that many people have a license. You are USA. I've seen homes near me with big antenna set up. Then those are, if they're big antennas, then they are HF radios, which can go uh, across the earth. Do the FCC people dress like men in black? Of course. Big kahuna man. Obviously. What about Hisense TVs? Are Hisense TVs like TVs that spy on you? So do you hear like cops and firemen? Yes, you can. Not. It depends. I can hear some police, some emergency, some EMT, uh, but a lot of the police here in LA are using trunk radio, which is in a different, which is requires a decoder, and I don't have those decoders. So yes, I can listen to them, but it's too much work to decode. They're not going to be. You cannot hear it here on this. AMP, you said, can you explain that? EMP, can you? I just spent 2 hours explaining it. So yeah, I can't re-explain EMP now. So there's a question on YouTube. Oh, sorry, what's the question on YouTube? Okay, they may dress like men in black, but they get their shit from Burlington coat factories, so they're not very impressive. Okay, so yeah, this is a very important topic. So you're gonna have to watch the replay on EMP because it's kind of a long explanation. So yes, so EMP, how EMP works and how it generates. In summary, an EMP creates movements in magnetic fields that, if put next to any kind of wire or any kind of metal conductor, depending on the wavelength, will cause Faraday induction, which will generate electricity. And depending on the size of the wires, like the grid, meaning your telephone wires and your electric lines, the voltage on those wires can go up to as high as 50,000 volts, which, aside from generating heat, will burn transformers, will burn the grid up, and maybe cause fires. In addition to burning up any equipment plugged in, that will cause a spark with 50,000 volts. Are they working on the giant 5G towers around? Are they working out on the giant 5G towers? 5G towers are not giant. Watch my 5G video on YouTube, Rob Braxman Tech, and learn exactly what they're doing on 5G. They're not doing what you're thinking they're doing. What about scanners listening? Don't they sell them at electronic stores? I don't know what the context is for that, John. Yeah, if you want to learn about 5G and 5G towers and what they're going to do, they're not going to put a 5G thing every 10 feet. That's false. I don't see them building that. So that's not the case. If you want to really know what they're going to be doing, go to my video on YouTube, and it also explains the health dangers of. Are scanners different than ham radio? Scanners are listen only, so you don't need a scanner. Scanners automatically flip channels, but you can put a cheap $29 device on your computer, and you can scan the frequencies all over the place. So I'll teach you that tomorrow. In fact, I'll even put the links to the devices that you can put on your computer to do that. Yeah. So, and I'll even make a short video for you so you understand. So yeah. So tomorrow, I'll teach you all. I can't. There's no more time tonight. So tonight I'll just answer what remains of the questions. 8 p.m. Pacific to 10 p.m. Pacific. What about walkie-talkies? Can do that? No, walkie-talkies are very short range. In case you didn't understand the difference with your typical walkie-talkie that will work for, I don't know, 500 yards. This one, through repeaters, I'm talking to people over 100 miles away. I'm in LA. I can talk to somebody from San Diego, which is 2 hours away. Okay? If I didn't have the repeater, I can easily talk to somebody, uh, you know, 20 miles away. The cost of this? No. $25. Again, learn about it tomorrow. You can't just do this. There are steps here. You can't just do this. There are instructions. It's illegal to have these. It's illegal to have these without the proper licensing. And I got to teach you what it takes to implement this, because it's not as simple as saying, I'll take the test, which is very difficult to study for. And even when you do, it's not that simple, because who you're going to talk to, if you want to talk to your family, because in order for this to be useful, your family has to be on it. So I'm going to teach you how to do it. I'm going to teach you how to do it, how to be legal on this, how you can use it. Can you show us how to usefully program? I know I can make a video, Brickheart USA. I can make a video, yes. Why do they make it so hard? Because this can be used for bad things. I used to have a ham operator's permit, Doug. So renew it. Take the test again if it's too long ago. So I will teach you tomorrow. There's some really I have organized all over my home, along with copper. Do they charge monthly fees? There are no monthly fees. This is why this is awesome. If you understand what this works, how this works, and away from the spying of Zuck and Google and Facebook and everybody else. You can't be private on here, but in a way, this is more private than the internet. It's a very strange thing. It's like hiding in plain sight. This is more private than the internet. Yes, I have a solution for that too. George Flynn. Just speak in pig Latin. You cannot encrypt your conversation. Peter North, good-looking monkey. must be Jay again. Okay, so Salt Lakers. I can't have you type that, because that will cause my no, JHVTY black marker. Was it black marker? No, I forget your other name. Why don't you buy some ham from the store? GHYTGH. Oh my gosh, that's so difficult to so will those be helpful in an end time event? Those ham? Yes, come South Carolina. But come back tomorrow so I can explain it all. We don't have any more time today to discuss it. I will answer all those questions and how difficult it is, or easy it is, depending what you do. There's a strategy to it, and there's a strategy to it. It's a little bit. It requires a little bit of thinking. You're not going to be able to do it, without kind of planning, in order to put this into practical use. So in order for me to do this, I actually got a second radio that's arriving tomorrow. Okay? So I'll have two of these, and then I can demonstrate what I'm going to do. Okay? So you're saying kelp is right. How is kelp right? That everyone's going to be buying ham radios? Is that what kelp said? Kelp said that because I'm talking about it, that there will be a big run on ham licenses. It's very difficult to get a ham license. It's not easy. Is there like 1,000 it's 35 questions, and it's multiple choice. How do those electric trucks keep fixing the same transformer poles for years? Yeah, I always wonder about that. Why do those transformers keep blowing up on my street? The transformers keep blowing up on my street. Why is that? Hide in plain sight on ham radio. There's truth to that, yes. Only 35 questions. You need to pass only, I believe, 20. Uh, you only need to pass 26 questions. To pass, you need to only correctly answer 26 questions, and then you'll pass. Okay, but it's not easy. And I mean, you do have to study, but you can study it, and it'll take you a while. I mean, you can read if you are quick read. You can read everything in 4 hours, but then in order to memorize it, because you have to memorize some of it, so it will take a while. It might take you a week. No, 26 out of 35. You don't take the test at the DMV, no. I'll tell you about that tomorrow. So I'll tell you about it because not everything requires a test. So I'm going to tell you how. Am I on MySpace? Yes, apparently, because it won't delete my account on MySpace. Your 14-year-old self is on MySpace. I've been doing the pre-test, and they are hard, and I know some electrical knowledge. It's not as hard for the technician exam. It's very hard for the general exam. The general exam is quite hard. Yes, there's because you're memorizing frequencies. What frequency can you transmit in the 30-meter band? Between what are the allowed ranges in the 14 megahertz area? Where can you transmit? I mean, it's like memorization. And then they say in this kind of circuitry with the what is the reactance to AC voltage with a resonant circuit? Getting a peak envelope power of 100 watts. It's like suck. That's the general exam. That's the one I'm going to be taking. So I'm ready for that exam. I can take that now, but the next exam that's nearby is 2 weeks from now. So it'll be 2 weeks before I can take the general exam. But yeah, I want to take the general exam, and I already studied for it, so it's okay. So I'm ready for the general exam. Now it is difficult. I mean, it's there's a lot of memorization. I customized all the HTML on the MySpace to look like my favorite video game back then. How do they know if you're not just guessing or cheating? They don't know if you're not guessing or cheating. If you could memorize all the answers, you can pass from sheer memorization. Yes. If you memorize all the answers, you can pass. Yes. I don't think you can do the same with the general exam. You actually have to know it. You still need to take the MCAT? Yes. Nabil, my friend. After this, you should learn. How about piano? So anyway, this is I'm introducing you to new topics. Trying to introduce you to I can't stand memorizers. I'm introducing you new topics. My channel's kind of expanding to more, not just talking about Zuck all day. Nabil, my friend. So we're not just talking about Zuck all day. We actually are dealing with devices a little bit, so we can have some tools. Do they let you transmit all over the world, or strictly to your state or city? You can transmit all over the world, but it depends on what equipment and what license. So a technician license mostly gives you the ability to do regional communications. A general license, which is the one I'm shooting for, allows you to transmit all over the world. And then an extra license gives you extra frequencies. It is interesting, a bit above my pay grade. So I will, we're back to this black marker. You're very good with these goods. It's like, isn't that kind of stupid though? GHV. How the Zuck do you pronounce GT? GT. Isn't that kind of stupid to put goods on there? Extra license to Triple Crown. Piano player. Yeah. So anyway, there's two ways to memorize on thorough understanding enough to derive answers. The other is through repetition. Can you be paid for transmitting information there as well, like a social media platform? It's illegal to do that on ham radio. What antenna repeater do they use? It's not called an antenna repeater. It's called a repeater. So there are volunteer repeaters all over California here, and and we all use it every day. So there's a lot of repeaters here. Zuck those impatient people. So yeah, console right line. Hello world. Oh my gosh, we got a baby programmer here. Thinking he can write a little JavaScript and he actually knows what's going on. Okay. Good night, man, to listen to. So come back tomorrow, people, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you learn about some of the stuff that you're asking already on my YouTube channel, Rob Braxman Tech. So please follow. So ham, you need a license. You can't make money if the ham platform. I'll teach you all that. There are options. South Carolina, there are options. There are options. If you don't want to take the test, there are options. I will teach you all about it tomorrow. There are options using the same exact devices. This is not as black and white. There are things you can do that doesn't require a test. Okay? And that you can still use in an emergency. I will teach you that. So that's going to be valuable to know. This is easy to understand, and you'll be able to implement. I don't know what the rule is in Australia, though. Can I buy crack? No, you cannot. GVT, unless you crack your ham radio. Okay, so anyway, so subscribe to my YouTube channel so you're going to learn about this, and go watch the other videos that you've already asked about relating to 5G and some of the other topics. I'll make short videos about this too, and maybe I can give you like instructional on how to program these things, and I'll actually tell you, what to get. They're very cheap. Okay. In the next few months or years. Yes, I know what's going to happen next few months. Yes, the next few months, Bitcoin will go up. I can tell you right now, this is guaranteed. The next few months, Bitcoin will go up. After the EMP, will your show be on ham radio? I could do that, Space Resort, and I can charge if you all have a ham radio, I can do a broadcast. Yeah, Bitcoin will go up. So that I can already tell. So it finally is going to go up. So is there a coming EMP? EMP can happen anytime. So yeah, a terrorist can do an EMP and the word zacked. The world as you know it will no longer exist. So it's a very, very scary thought. Very scary thought. Litecoin will go up. Well, Bitcoin will go up for sure. Will Trump stop? I can't. Okay. Okay, so I hate having to memorize by repetition. Are you going to get Skywarn certification? I'm going to tell you all the licenses I got, and why. I already have. I have a couple of licenses, and I will tell you about it tomorrow. We don't know if an EMP happens, it might take us back to the 1800s. Yeah, 1800s with cell phones for playing games. So when did the last EMP happen? I'm sure they're testing miniature EMPs right now. I'm sure they're doing those kinds of tests. Okay? So you can emulate an EMP by just putting a lot of current into a lot of wires. So you can't emulate it now because all it is if you emulate a small enough space, you can emulate. You could put a car in a room and pass enough voltage through it to emulate an EMP. Oh, Simon, yes. Okay, sorry, I forgot to make this announcement because I got distracted. Okay, all of you with Bytes VPN, if you have Bytes VPN now, you can download additional profiles, and you now have a choice to pick a profile that has ad blocking or no ad blocking. So you can choose. So you can download all the profiles, some with blocking, some without ad blocking. So, and then you can switch back and forth. So if you say, well, I want ad blocking, you can go use the ad blocking VPN. And then you say, well, I don't want ad blocking anymore. You can go back to the no ad blocking VPN, and it's available to you. Now, just so you understand the story about ad blocking, if you ad block, there will be a cache on your computer. It will not, the ad blocking may likely last a day on the computer unless you clear the DNS cache. So anyway, okay, so if you have Bytes VPN, you can now activate. You can go to the website and download a profile. If you have a hardware Brax Wi-Fi router, which many of you do, if you have a Brax Wi-Fi router, the new one with the new software, you can go select a router with ad blocker, and the ad blocker is so effective. It really does work. It really does work. I mean, the ads disappear. There'll just be big holes in the websites. Big holes. There's not going to be anything on them. And it's really neat. It actually speeds up a lot of your web traffic because it doesn't... do you know what a PL tone is and how... Yes, I will try to explain PL tone tomorrow as well, Camaro Jeff. Why are you asking that, Camaro Jeff? Are you asking me to talk about it, or you just want to make sure I knew about it? Yeah, PL tone is... I'm actually going to try to make sure I can actually program the PL tone in. I'm just a radio guy. Delete DNS cache on library in Mac or other. On the computer, it depends on a Windows. It's just a command line. I'm sure you can do the same command line on a Mac. I just don't know what the command is. You can flush DNS with a command line, but that's not important. If you had the ad blocking, you're just going to be aware that the ad blocking will it takes a while for the ad blocking to work, and then it takes a while for the ad blocking to dissipate. Do you know what that pendants for protection work with the correct properties? Protection for what? It depends on frequency, resonance, and whatever. Terminal, then I think. Yes, that's correct, John. Yes. So I used to do ad blocking with a giant blacklist of URLs. So yes, so I do that for you. Have you seen the portable EMP guns? You make them with high voltage power supply, or yeah, you could do that, Mad Cow. Yeah, you can do that. So anyway, Bytes VPN will have... Look at Bytes VPN, guys. It's incredible. It has Tor routing. It has ad blocking. It's a stealth VPN that nobody knows it's a VPN. We don't block anything. There's no logs. It's very high performance. I get as much as 100 megabits from it, which is the limit of my Wi-Fi. It has a VPN hardware router that you can use. I mean, this is about, and yet it's priced the same as all the other VPNs. So it's quite a deal for all the services that you're getting for the same price. So, you know, really need to start thinking about changing your VPN over to Brax VPN. Yes, yes. The new ones have no ads o.o VPN. That's correct. So you will have a lot of advantages with Bytes VPN that you're not going to get elsewhere. So Bytes VPN, guys, made by me, run by me, and a way to support this broadcast. So for $89 a year, you're supporting this broadcast. It also grates cheese and has a built-in blender. Exactly. Okay, so support this broadcast by using Bytes VPN. South is coming. No, there's no need for north because east is already north. So east is northeast. So I'm going to add south. So it'll be like a pool, triangle pool. So south will be, there will be a south VPN, south pool this coming week. So there's an east pool, which is northeast. There's a west pool, which is LA. And then there will be a south pool, which will be in Florida. And that will be active in a few days. Okay, there'll be a new OVPN for that. Back in the day, criminals used to use EMP guns on slot machines to force a jackpot. Really? New display models in the store. New display models in the store? You mean the one with the LCD screen? I don't have that in the store. I wasn't planning on mass producing that yet, but it's $30 more. So you're gonna, if you want the one with the LCD, just talk to me and just add $30. For the hardware Wi-Fi, we have to go inside with monitor plus keyboard to change profile. No, Great Gold, you use SSH and you connect to the device. Why do you need any of that? I run my Brax Wi-Fi router headless, meaning no monitor, no keyboard. I access it through SSH. So that's in the manual. Use SSH. So you just need a program that can do SSH. So that's the question you need to ask is, how can I use SSH? Well, if you're on a Mac, terminal, direct. If you're on Linux, terminal. If you're in Windows, install the Linux subsystem or download something called PuTTY. So just install new profile and use how I wish. Yes. So John, you already have access to your device, or you can plug in a monitor and keyboard and just select a new router, a new OVPN with ad blocking. Yes, so you can do that. So if you plug in a monitor and keyboard, you can do it. Oh, but I'm lazy. I do SSH. I don't like plugging a monitor and keyboard because I got to get up. I don't use PuTTY, Donnie. I just use the Linux subsystem. I run Ubuntu on my Windows. So a lot of the times I'm on Linux command line on my computer. I do all of the stuff that I do on a command line Linux. Okay, so SSH it. Okay, so Bytes VPN is kind of an incredible VPN bargain with Tor routing and now ad blocking on top of everything else. This will be a very unusual VPN because no VPN really offers all of these services. Okay, so this is go to bytesvpn.com to subscribe to it. Anything that saves me getting up is a good thing. Come on, Simon, you must know SSH. Simon, you must SSH all day, but you're probably on Windows all the time. Are you a big Linux guy, Simon, or you're kind of all Windows? You're in corporate. You probably all Windows. So Uh, this is Los Angeles, Donnie. There's always airplanes everywhere. Is there a place where you can have no airplanes in no all Linux? Oh, okay. Yeah. So Windows is annoying as Zuck. Well, I'm using Windows, but I'm running Linux on it. I don't know Windows Dev much at all. I did Windows Dev for decades, and then switched to Linux Dev, and then and then Mac Apple Dev, Xcode. So I've done all the above. Can I run Linux on Mac? You don't need to run Linux on Mac because the command line. Yes, you can using VirtualBox. You do all Linux. Yeah, you can. Nabil, I run. You run VirtualBox on a Mac, and then you can run uh, Linux, like Ubuntu or whatever. VirtualBox. So you can do that. You can do it on Windows too, but it doesn't work too well. So, uh, and then on Linux you can. Uh, I have had difficulty running, virtualization on Linux because I don't usually put a GUI in KVM. The virtualization for Linux requires a GUI, and I don't normally deal with GUI. So it's kind of a pain. So, but I got to do it soon because I like to make my job easier just by virtualizing my Mac by Linux. I will send you a message if I encounter any problems. Yeah, Nabil, download VirtualBox and then look for instructions. And VirtualBox runs very well on a Mac. And then look for instructions on how to download an image of Linux for VirtualBox, and then it will run like a full version Linux on your. I did it all the time. So, and on Windows you don't need to do that because Windows comes with Unix. I don't like using PuTTY since I have full Ubuntu on my Windows now. So Windows comes with the Linux subsystem now, so you can install Linux on Windows. So I can do everything Linux. Well, not everything, but I can do a lot of things on Linux on Windows. So I don't need to interrelate the two. So often I have many Linux windows open and then Windows running at the same time. So I don't really use my Mac much anymore. I use Raspberry Pi for Linux. Not enough power. So I have Linux. I have many Linux servers. So I'm running a lot of my stuff. I'm broadcasting to you right now through a Linux server. That was what failed tonight. That's why I had a little broadcast problem. So that's what I was trying to fix. Is VirtualBox good for switching PCs quickly? Yes. But VirtualBox is slow. VirtualBox is not the best virtualization for production. It's a little bit slow. So if you want a little bit of speed, you may want to use something else. On a PC, VMware is probably faster, much faster. Okay? Yeah. So on a Linux machine, use KVM. Wait, I can run Windows and Linux simultaneously. Yes, Space Resort. Windows 10 comes with the Linux subsystem. Google it. So on my Linux machine here, I'm on my Windows machine. I have Linux subsystem here. I'll show you. There. So that's Linux. Command line. Okay, so this is running Ubuntu. Hello, Nervous Vegas. Okay, so that's what you do. Okay, is that like wine but the other way around? VMware Fusion. Is it true the world can't live without Facebook like we can't live without TV? Tony, the world can run without Facebook for sure. We will all be happier without Facebook. Okay, so So, uh, lots of explaining I did here, and I'll focus more on implementing using these radios, uh, both for emergencies and for evading the Zuck. Okay, what will iSocialFit say if I say instead of using Facebook, let's all use ham radio? So we'll teach you how to do that. These things are cheap, guys. Yeah, I just yes, you missed the EMP. The first 2 hours was the EMP. I'm thinking about getting a new laptop. Any recommendations? I'm using a HP Spectre X360 as my main laptop. Come here, Jeff. I like it. If you want to spend a little bit more money, a Dell XPS is even faster. Uh, but yes. So anyway, I hope you learned from all the stuff. I did educate you quite a bit here. Did you read the op-ed? Do I need to? Another Zuck co-founder wants to talk about all the bad news about Zuck. There's nothing new anymore. Nothing new anymore. Okay, yes, watch the replay because it's too much to repeat, but it's very, very informative. You will like it. It's a very good discussion. Okay, very, very good discussion. So, power supply. Any thoughts? No thoughts. I don't know what a Corsair AX. That sounds like a power supply I won't use. A super solar storm could be as bad as an EMP or worse. Not as bad, but it could be like a mini EMP. Yes, a solar storm can be a mini EMP. Not normally as bad, but bad enough to destroy your equipment. He's a kid who made $1 billion starting out with it in his little dorm. You mean Zuck? Okay, guys. So continue tomorrow. There's more. I'm going to tell you a lot tomorrow. So going to talk tomorrow. You can combat an EMP by switching from PLCs to coils in a PCB factory. Solar storm, DR test for EMP. Yes. GTX. Wow, you're asking me all these graphic cards and all that. Added bytes, add free laptop. Thank you. Cover the place with an extrastatic shield. Okay, so yeah, I don't use desktops. So if you're asking me about gaming stuff, I don't. You can go to Linus on YouTube for that. Will Yahoo chat rooms ever return? I thought they're still around. Guys, please consider bytesvpn.com. It's an awesome VPN. It's incredible. If you're using PIA, because I recommended it, discontinue your subscription, and so that when it expires, they won't renew. They won't kill your subscription now. It'll run through until the end, but in the meantime, then you can switch when it ends to Bytes VPN. Okay. So thank you guys, and we'll talk more and more. There's much more tomorrow. Okay. Much more tomorrow. You need to subscribe to my YouTube account to get even more information. Subscribe to my YouTube account. I don't really get much traffic here on Periscope. It's kind of depressing in a way. I want to chat with the sys op. Okay. Anyway,